Well, the New York Knicks season has come to an end, and now it's time to look forward. What should happen this offseason? Let's talk about it. And well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watts2K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. So, Friday night was Game 7. The New York Knicks get eliminated by the Miami Heat in Game 6. Final score of 96-92. Fortunately for me, I was able to be at a work function, so I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the game. The rest of us were just figuring out how to use the drink tickets for those employees who didn't want to drink. So I had a good night to the best that I could remember. But I wanted to move forward. All I've really seen since Friday with Knicks fans is this guy's got to go, this guy's trash, this guy sucks, this guy's got to go. I'm just really amazed how angry Knicks fans are right now. You know, I know this franchise hasn't won a championship now in 50 years. But this, to me, was probably the best Knicks season I've seen in probably 22 years. You know, you can make an argument for 2 years ago, you know, but to me, I thought this was a fun, exciting season. And I got to tell you, despite a second-round loss, I feel good about where this franchise is going over the next little while. I see a chance to have sustainable success. I really, really do. But what I want to do here is talk about what the Knicks have upcoming in the offseason, what their priorities are going to be, the big decisions they have to make, and some team needs as well. So we're going to talk about quite a bit in this video, and I'm just going to give you a few of my opinions as well, what I think the team should do. So before this season, when you factor in the Knicks last year didn't even make the playoffs, so who knew what to expect? But they ultimately finish as the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, defeating the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 before losing to Miami in 6. A team that is very battle-tested, by the way, that gets the Eastern Conference Finals and NBA Finals regularly. It doesn't feel that way, but Miami is a good, tough team that knows how to win these games. So the next thing that we got to talk about is the draft. The Knicks don't have a single draft pick as of right now in 2023. They traded their first-round pick for Josh Hart. The second-round pick, I believe Minnesota owns that. But the Knicks do have 7 first-round picks over the next 10 years. Plus, the Knicks will receive the Dallas Mavericks 2023 first-round pick if at the draft lottery it falls outside the top 10. Now, Dallas is ranked 10th. Currently, if everything went according to plan, Dallas would finish 10th. The Knicks would not get that first-round pick, but there is a 20.8% chance of Dallas falling in the lottery and the Knicks taking that first-round pick, which would be somewhere between 11 and 14. So that's what we're looking at with the draft. Now, free agents, the Knicks don't have a ton of tough decisions here. You've got Josh Hart, who has a player option. We talked about that. We've got Derrickrose, who has a team option. McBride with a team option. And you got a couple of rookie deals with Trevor Keels and Dwayne Washington. We're not going to talk about the last two. I definitely expect McBride to be back. I don't see any way that he isn't. And also, the Knicks are in a pretty good financial position. Currently, no player is earning more than $28 million. Now, here's the thing. The Knicks are on a 4-year streak of being under the cap. That's expected to end. Now, even when they're probably going to let go of Derrickrose, I mean, for $15.6 million, it doesn't make any sense to keep him. When you leave out Rose, McBride, and a partially guaranteed contract on Jericho Sims, the Knicks right there have $146.8 million in salary locked up. That's $14 million over the cap. Now, the Knicks have till June 24th to exercise Rose's $15.6 million option. There's no way that's being picked up. They also have until, I believe, June 29th to exercise McBride's $1.9 million team option. They should absolutely pick that up. The salary protection on Jericho Sims, it's a $1.9 million contract. It would increase from $600K to $1.2 million on July 16th, becomes guaranteed on August 16th. Bottom line, Sims and McBride, I don't think there's any chance that they're going anywhere. But the top priority, which is what we're going to have to talk about here for a few minutes, is Josh Hart. The Knicks acquired Hart right before the trade deadline, and it turned out to be an absolutely fantastic decision. You know, he has that do-everything mentality. He is an absolute beast. He impacts both sides of the floor, and you know Coach Tom Thibodeau loves his defensive, specialists, and he could do that. But he does so much. If you look at all guards in the regular season, Hart had the third most rebounds of any guard in the NBA, only behind Luka Doncic and Josh Giddey. And he was second in offensive rebounds, only behind Giddey. I mean, he just has this feeling Giddey. What can I say? Opponents shot 41% from the field when Hart was the contesting defender. That ranked in the top 10 among more than 100 players after February 10th. Now, the business aspect of this is because Josh Hart was acquired in a trade. New York is going to inherit his Larry Bird rights. Now, that means they can exceed the salary cap to sign him. That's important. If Hart had finished the season in Portland, then became a free agent, all they would be able to offer him would be the $12.2 million mid-level exception. There's no way Hart was ever going to take that. So Hart has till, I believe, June 24th to decline his player option. Okay, now the contract becomes non-guaranteed if he opts in, so most likely he's going to enter free agency. He'll want to seek a long-term deal. Now, I would expect about a $16 to $17 million contract. That would give the Knicks flexibility to stay under the $162 million tax threshold. That number is going to be a little higher, that salary cap, because of the bird rights where you can exceed the salary cap to pay your own players. So now let's move on. Let's talk about contract extensions. The Knicks have two very important decisions to make as far as extending their own young players. And those two players are immanuelquickley and obitoppin. Now, it's important to remember the Knicks just committed 4 years and $107 million to rjbarrett. His salary is going way up, so it's going to be difficult to extend both of these players at this particular time. And then in 2024, keep in mind, the Knicks have to make the same decision on quentingrimes. The Knicks aren't going to be able to keep every single player, so it's really important they make the right decisions now. So let's talk about Quickley. So in 21 games as a starter, he averaged 22.6 points, 5.1 assists, 47% shooting from the field, and 40% on three-pointers. He also averaged in the top 10 in field goal percentage allowed, and so he played really, really good defense. The frustrating thing is he did not have a very good playoff run at all. About the only good game he really played was the deciding Game 5 against Cleveland. But other than that, it was really disappointing to see the way that he was playing and shooting especially before an ankle injury basically ended his season. Now with obitoppin, that one's a little bit more difficult because when you have Julius Randle on this team, there really isn't an opportunity for Toppin to get the minutes that he's going to want. Randle and Toppin played only 72 minutes together this season. Good defender, not a great shooter, so you have to factor that in as well. And I think if you look at the team needs, one thing the Knicks really do need is bench scoring. This season, the Knicks ranked 26th in scoring from their bench and 24th in three-point percentage. And we saw those numbers rear their ugly heads when Miami ousted the Knicks. Miami shot better, and they got more scoring from their bench. Those were two of the biggest things in this series. So with that in mind, here are 6 things that I would do. If I'm Leon Rose, if I'm the general manager, here's what I would do. Number 1, sign Josh Hart, like I said. Number 2, I would let Derrick Rose go, save the $15.6 million. Number 3, I would go ahead and extend immanuelquickley for a couple of reasons. Second in six-man voting. He's posted career highs in scoring this year with 14.9, in rebounds with 4.2 per game. He's getting to be a better shooter every single year, and his defense, as we referred to, was a critical component of the team winning 47 games this year. He was number 1 on the Knicks in defensive rating, a 108.1 defensive rating, which is excellent. And the Knicks outscored the opponent 6.2 points per 100 possessions when he was on the floor. That's the 3rd best on the team. The one thing is, like we said with the playoffs, the fact that he struggled like he did, I wonder if that's going to give Leon Rose and company pause about locking him up. Right? I wonder if the playoffs will factor into those negotiations. Obitoppin, I would not extend him. I wouldn't let this play out. I felt his improvement this season was pretty marginal. He's a defensively challenged forward who just doesn't create his own shot. He's great at running the floor. He's very good in transition. He's very inconsistent, let's say, with the long-range shooting. I really see him as a player who's going to drift from team to team over a decently long career. I don't see him as a long-term piece for the New York Knicks. A lot of people are also talking, this is number 5, a lot of people are talking about rjbarrett. I would not let him go. He's still only 22, 23 years old, and I felt he really grew up in the playoffs. After the first 2 games in Cleveland, he played much more confidently, much more decisively. He's a very good player when he drives to the basket. He's able to score. You don't want him shooting a whole heck of a lot, but, as a third option, I'm totally good with him. I'm good with him as a third option, not as the team's lead option. So if you consider Brunson your 1 and Barrett your 3, what do you do about your number 2? Do you trust Julius Randle? And as Julius Randle, I give him credit. He had a good bounce back regular season. He was named to the 3rd All-NBA team. That does mean something. But we saw in the playoffs for the 2nd time in a row, he just did not play consistently enough. When I made my series prediction, I thought the Knicks were going to beat Miami. I did say Julius Randle had to have a big series, and he had anything but. I just feel like mentally, if you don't have the talent, that's one thing. But if mentally you're drifting, and I felt Randle was, you can't be counted on. And I just don't think the Knicks can really realistically go forward with him. As talented as he may be, you have to perform your best when your best is expected of you. And Julius Randle did not do that. So I'm not saying you have to trade him right now. I'm not saying it's trade him no matter what. You have to find an appropriate package for him. And if that takes one more season, then fine. But I would actually be very interested in a couple players. And I feel like the Knicks are going to need a big man to replace him. And I would actually consider Karlanthonytowns to pair with Mitchell Robinson as sort of that 1-2 punch, that twin tower sort of deal. So here's the thing with Towns. Number 1, I don't exactly mind that he went to my high school, my first high school, St. Joseph's in Metuchen, New Jersey. But Towns' agent was Leon Rose. And ever since then, Towns has been a possible target for the Knicks. Now, he has admitted this past season he had a bad year. He actually called it a failure himself. But in his 8-year NBA career, 27 years old this guy is, he has established himself as an elite offensive big man. He averages 23 points per game, 11.2 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 1.2 blocks. He shoots 52.6% from the field and 39.5% from 3. Or you could even plug him in at center. The question is somebody willing to take Mitchell Robinson's contract back? Because the Knicks recently extended Robinson too. I love Mitchell Robinson as a defensive center, but we know he has a very, very limited offensive game, and his free throw shooting ability, it makes Chris Dudley looks like, Bob Cousy or, you name the guy, John Stockton in his prime. So if you have a chance to get Towns, I think it's absolutely worth it. And, maybe the Timberwolves, they have Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards in tow. They still have some all-stars, so they might be looking to change a piece here and there without tearing the whole thing down. Maybe Randle would make sense over there. The one concern, though, would Towns get along with Tom Thibodeau? The two are rumored to have butted heads a little bit in Minnesota, but Thibodeau, from what I've heard, he has been open to the idea of the Knicks acquiring Towns. The question is the feeling mutual? Well, the jury's out on that one. But if the Knicks could acquire Towns in a trade for Randle, or I think that is a trade that you really, really have to consider. But while I want to trade Randle, I'm not going to say it's trade Randle or bust. I think that's pushing it a little bit too far. So those are my thoughts on the Knicks. I do feel good about this past season, but now it's time to build on it. And this is going to be a pivotal offseason for that. It's going to be interesting to see, though, if the Knicks, find their way back into this draft. It's going to be very fascinating to watch whether Dallas falls in the lottery or maybe the Knicks find their way. Maybe they trade one of their future first-round picks and work their way back in to the 2023 NBA draft. It's going to be fascinating. I want to see your thoughts. What would you do with the Knicks? Who would you trade? Who do you want to keep? Who do you have confidence in going forward besides Jalenbrunson? I want to see your thoughts. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair.